Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, as you can tell from the card down there somewhere, what we're going to be doing today is taking a blown up chainsaw that I got in a box. The owner said he got this far and decided this was just too much of a task for him. Perfect project for me. We are going to take this saw and turn it from a box full of parts to better than new in this video. And it'll probably be a couple parts, so make sure to subscribe to catch all the parts and see this saw go from a box of junk, essentially, to a ported monster Stihl 440. Welcome to Man Time. Well, I got my box of parts over here, and I don't usually talk about this too much. Like, you know, some people might tune into my videos and say, hey, there's this guy just like working on a chainsaw, whatever, you know, let's go on to somebody's channel that we know and we've heard of, and this and that. So I'm an engineer. I have a master's degree. I'm a college professor. I teach total productive maintenance, lean manufacturing. I work for manufacturing companies designing effective and efficient manufacturing systems. Process, parts, people, all that stuff plays into an effective manufacturing system. Right, so I know how to design processes to build things. That's what I do. So I'm going to show you guys the process to rebuild this saw into a better than new saw based on my knowledge of both manufacturing processes and chainsaws. So there you go. Like I said, I don't normally talk about that, but I have a feeling like some people tune into my channel and go, oh, here's just another random dude like working on a chainsaw in his backyard. And I mean, essentially that's what I am. I'm just another man working on stuff in his backyard in these videos. Oh, sorry, girl. Okay. And living life day to day. But today is a very special day because we've got a Stihl MS 440 blown up piston, like missing pieces. The pieces are actually embedded in the top of it. And we are going to go through all of the steps or the process to make this saw new and great again. Better than new. I got a whole box of parts here that we're going to put on there. I'm going to go through all the steps to make this saw better than new. So, if you're new to the channel and wondering why I just took a bath, well, that's because it's Texas, and it feels like 110 until about 7 o'clock at night, and then it cools down to about 100. And then when you wake up, it's 80 and 80% humidity, and it's just hot all the time. So, I'm out here doing this in the heat of the day. If you could, maybe hit that thumbs up for me showing you all this cool stuff. But I'm going to go through this one. This is my first chainsaw in a box, right? It's my saw in a box. And I'm going to go through the same process I would go through if this saw was complete and blown up, essentially. First of all, trying to get these steel caps off. Just awesome. Oh, it's bad. It's real bad in there. So take your old brake band from your old chainsaw that threw that brake band, and what we're going to do here, the first steps are going to be to troubleshoot and try to diagnose why it failed or failure analysis. So we start with fuel. Typically when a saw blows up, that's because it's either gotten too hot or not enough lubrication from the gasoline, the two-stroke mix gas. Alright, fuel filter seems to be doing fine. Fuel line is another story. Let me get you in here and I can show you what I'm doing. But I just tugged on that just a little bit, and it see if we can show you what's going on with this thing. This is the fuel line. So that could have had a hole in it, and then it was sucking air midway up the line there somewhere. You know, so when it got down to a half a tank, it would start pulling air. That's happened to me before, and yeah, it's no fun. So right off the hop there, I think we found, you know, at least one of the problems. Another one of the problems that I saw was this right here, and this is your rim sprocket. This is what the chain rides in, or the drive gear for the chainsaw. This is an 8-pin sprocket, and in my opinion 8 is way too much for this little saw. Now this saw came to me from a gentleman who owns a landscape and tree service. This wasn't, or at least he told me this was his personal saw. You know, so I am going to take you at your word. He has my YouTube channel. You know, I told him when I bought the saw from him that you know, I port chainsaws and fix chainsaws and stuff like that. And he said, yeah, this was my personal saw, and I mean, it definitely looks like it was rode hard, though. I mean, rode real hard. HD carb, I think I've got a carb kit for this. I think these will use like an HD10 carb kit. So the first thing I do, I check the filter, check the fuel line, and then check the carb. So that's what we're going to do. All the rest of this is just additional to what's going to happen in this series of fixing this chainsaw to make it better than new. So let's get started rebuilding the carb, and we'll go on from there. I should probably mention, going through this whole process, I'm definitely not sponsored by anybody. I don't get paid for this at all. I mean, especially from the people at like Stihl or Husky, or, you know, any brands. They wouldn't pay me, because if you were to take this to Stihl and it was blown up, which, you know, this guy probably experienced, the guy that sold it to me, the cost of all of the steel parts would have probably been in excess of almost half the price of a new saw. Let's say a new saw, this saw, like a 65cc saw, is probably $800. Maybe closer to $1,000 now. They used to be $800. I don't buy new things, so I wouldn't know. But if you were to try to buy this stuff at Stihl, it would be like half the cost of the saw itself for the parts, and then another, you know, additional to go through all this. They just, you know, they're going to tell you you need to buy a new saw, basically, if you blow up your saw, where the piston, you know, has chunks missing out of it, stuff like that. And you know, true enough, it's probably time to retire the saw after, you know, a catastrophic failure like that. But oftentimes the cylinder is repairable or salvageable. In this case, it may not be. There's some pretty big damage in there. You can't really probably see too well, but there's definitely some nicks and cuts in the ports and in the transfers both throughout that cylinder. But anyways, I don't get paid by anybody to make these videos, including YouTube. You know, I'm not in the cool kid club. That's why I thought I'd make that little introduction there and tell you about who I am, because YouTube doesn't think I'm very much of anything. So it's up to you to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and let them know that I actually do make a pretty good video, I guess, is how it works. Or not. I mean, the fact that I have man in the title of my channel name may just disqualify me immediately, but you men out there, if you would, yeah, go ahead and subscribe. Alright, I'm going to get a razor blade, get all of the crust off of the top of this. We're going to replace everything in this carb with a new carb kit. This one looks like it calls out for a K10 HD. So that's what we're going to be doing in 110 degree feels like temperature. Man, this is the life. So you need to get all of that gasket material off of this this plate. I use just, you know, flathead, dig around. There's a little ridge like that runs all the way around there that helps it seal. And then after I get done with that, I'll run some sort of Scotch-Brite pad over it to just get it the rest of the way. The way that this gasket comes off of there tells me how long it's been since a carb kit rebuild. If it's been like, I don't know, just a couple years, it should just peel right off of there. Typically it's like more than 5 years, it's sealed on there hermetically like that, where I just, start thinking I need to replace everything. And so that's what I do. Let's see here. What else? Yeah, another thing, I used to inspect, like every single part piece coming out of there. I don't do that anymore. I just put all new parts in there and know for sure that everything is good to go. So there's a little screen right down in here, and basically that's where fuel feeds in and up and through that screen, or actually up through here and then through that screen. And then you just want to match up the gaskets to the gaskets that were in there. And you can do that real easy with these Walbro ones. They have lineup dowels, so it's almost impossible to get it wrong. That's not right. That's not right either. So this should line up, similar to like what's going on here. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so it's like pretty easy to get these messed up, really. That's pretty funny. See, then you get sweat on it because it's 100 degrees. So that's how that's supposed to look there. All of the holes kind of line up there. Holes kind of line up there, and then you've got those dowel pins, and then you just have to kind of line up the holes here. Nice. Alright, let's get this other side together. Alright, that might be a little bit better view for you there. So the bottom side of the carb, or the pumping side of the carb, as I like to call it, the valving is actually on the other side of the carb here. But this is what's called the diaphragm, and for me this is, what does the pumping. But this is, I mean, it was probably working, but not really working well. This isn't what, it's not ideal. And then from here, you've got your needle seat, and then your metering lever right there. Now to check this, typically the metering lever should be lined up flush with the top body of the carb here. This one is perfect, so I'm not seeing any issues here. Also along the way I'm spraying out like all the orifices. So any of these orifices that have like a hole going through them, I'm spraying those out. I spray it out on this side also. And then I also take the jets out, like one by one. You can turn them in to get the number of turns out and then turn them out. I always start with a turn and a quarter to a turn and a half. Typically a turn and a half as a good safe baseline to start with anyway. So I don't really worry about where it was initially. But that can give you an indication of, failure analysis. But as far as the carb here, I'm not seeing any red flags. Like the metering lever was set correctly. The screen was clean. Yeah, fuel able to flow in there freely. Like all of the kind of basic checks are good. So here again, I just replace stuff out, right? I'll take this old stuff, I'll inspect it a little bit. Like I said, if this were 5 years ago me, I'd put all this stuff back in there. I'm just not going to do it because that seat on the needle looked fine. But 2023 me is not having any of it. 2023 me is going to use every little bit of new part. Needle, seat, metering lever, the whole gamut. And the way you do this, you just set that in there. Try not to sweat too much in it. Man, if any of my normal subscribers, like I have subscribers, if any of the normal people that tune in are wondering why I don't make too many videos in the summer, well, here you go. 100, it feels like 100 at 8 o'clock. Like, I tried to start this project last night and looked at the weather and the temperature, and yeah, it didn't cool down. Because normally I do some like Friday night projects, right? Like Friday night's kind of my jam, to come out here, have a little man time, turn the camera on, fix some stuff, repair some stuff. And this was a really good project, but I mean, if it doesn't get down to below 100 until 8 o'clock at night, yeah, I'm not too thrilled about making videos. Not too thrilled about being outside in general in this kind of heat. Holy smokes. Alright. Some little casting imperfections there. That's not really a big deal. Because what's going to happen is, on here, this is going to go down first. So you're going to set that on there. And then set this on here, like so, and then this goes on, somehow, yeah, like that. So those little casting imperfections, once you tighten this down, those aren't going to matter at all. Alright, so that is carb rebuilt. We can move on to bigger and better things. Let's look at this piston a little closer, look at this cylinder. Look at the bottom end and see where we really stack up there. Alright, one thing I wanted to do before we end this part one of the video, our troubleshooting and diagnosis, is the parts you're going to need to completely rebuild the chainsaw. From what I saw initially, you can see the piston is completely gone, chunks missing, rings broken, like everything is really, really wrong with this piston. Right, jug again, chunks missing, scoring, probably it may be salvageable. I ordered two things. I ordered a replacement piston, but I also ordered a full new kit that includes piston, ring, jug. We're going to look at that in a second, but you're going to want a seal kit. I'm going to rebuild this saw again, better than brand new. So that includes seals for the lower end, splitting the case. It's got two case halves, so you're going to split that apart, and this is the seal you put in between the two parts. Putting it back together. So this gasket kit came from, I think it's called like Best Supply on eBay. It was one box, full package. And the difference between this and OEM, the majority of the difference is price. Right? I'm not going to get ahead by building this saw back with OEM parts. Nobody is. It's just way too difficult. Again, new parts for this probably would have been around $600, and with nice stuff like this from Italy, Meteor piston, and we can compare these side by side. But caber rings are like top of the line. These are going to be a 50 by 1.2 by 2. Two of those. Holy smokes, it's hot. But we can compare like side by side. As far as like dimensionally, these two things are going to be the exact same. You can see the tops of them line up, the bottoms of them line up. The only difference may be in the windows, and you know, that's kind of a problem with some of the aftermarket stuff. But Meteor has always been pretty good about matching, you know, what they did from the factory. And just looking at those, the Meteor may even be finished a little bit better than the OEM one in this case. It's not always the case, but in this case, that's what it looks like is going on. They include an organ plug, cylinder. So this whole kit with everything you need, minus the fuel filter, fuel line. I think that's basically the only other two parts I'm going to be missing here. But it's got the replacement jug, and just taking a look inside of the jug here, you can see, I mean, the finish and fitment on these I've never had a problem with, and that's why I'm going with a Meteor. Now I am going to try to port this, and I've seen where some people have had problems with the plating. I've worked with a few Meteor pistons. I've never had any issues, but we'll see. I'm going to, in this series of videos, take my deburr rotary tool and really dig into this plating. You can do it right here at the bottom of the transfer. The piston doesn't come in contact with that. If you were to take this and even grind down all the way to here and take the plating completely off, it really doesn't matter. So what I do, the first thing, is take my deburr tool and just start whacking at that, like hitting it hard and making sure this plating is going to hold up. But this piston, just looking at it and comparing it to the OEM, I would say it almost looks better. This is the Gilardoni Stihl versus the Meteor. Intakes look identical. Transfer ports identical. It may even be sitting a little bit lower. It looks like it's decked a little bit lower for some reason to me, which would be a good thing. That gives us all kinds of options there, opening up that intake and changing the port timing numbers on it. But just a really outstanding looking cylinder. So for all this stuff from that Best Supply, I think on eBay, again, all in one box, right? $139 versus like $600 at Stihl for all of this stuff, which is, there again, really the only way to go if you're going to try to rebuild your saw. Stihl makes it virtually impossible, and there could be things you're going to run into that are going to like really set you over the limit on rebuilding the saw. So if you're thinking of like doing this for a business or whatever, you really need to be cognizant of like kind of some of the pitfalls that can happen when you're pricing us out. Somebody, again, I don't do that. So yeah, if you were gonna like price this job out to a customer and you wanted to start a business doing this or whatever, you probably want to do like labor plus parts as your quote, right? Open-ended. It's going to be a minimum of $300 for my time to redo all this stuff, maybe $400 plus parts. So 300 plus 150 essentially, because there's additional stuff. That's $450 right there. And then if there's other things that you find along the way, that's additional, right? So you can give them that kind of baseline and then additional. But there again, if this is your saw, are you really going to pay somebody $450 plus any additional parts to fix it? Because that's what my time is worth. Might be different for somebody else, but I'm meticulous. So in this video, you're going to see a meticulously built saw. If you want to do this yourself, that's how you want to do it. So let's wrap up this part 1. All right, man. Yeah, man sweating. It's Texas. This is just normal summertime down here. Holy smokes. What happens is the humidity goes up as the temperature comes down, and equal in the morning. The temperature's down, humidity's up, and then it equalizes in the day to 110. And then back down, it kind of equalizes, so it still feels like 110. You're just sitting here sweating it out. But anyways, that's part 1 of rebuilding the chainsaw. This is failure analysis, parts list of things you're going to need to replace if you want to rebuild it to a like new or better than new status. I think that covers just about everything. Next video, we're going to get into more of the bottom end, the cylinder, port timing, stuff like that, and then we'll do final assembly and testing after that. So that's going to do it for today on Man Time. You like this type of stuff, want to see part 2, make sure to subscribe, hit that thumbs up. If you want to leave a super chat, which is like some money for me for sitting out here sweating for you in the 110 degree heat. That's going to do it for today on Man Time. Get out there, have you some man time too.